For those who don't want to buy a second-hand Beretta but want to spend about £1,000, there's a few options out there. This is one of them, the Marocchi First. So I actually have two Marocchi Firsts here, both First E's. This is a First E and this is a First E Deluxe. Very similar, except just slightly different. So we're going to look at some of the differences, look at some of the similarities, and then look at the gun as a whole as we go through. So if we work our way over to the back of the gun here, we have heel plates. Are fairly similar, they're not actually identical. This one is, on the Deluxe, is more textured than this one, although they are so similar. It kind of confused me a little bit, but they have a nice textured pattern, slippy but tacky. It's a fairly standard, unexciting rubber pad, to be honest. Moving on to the stocks. Obviously the Deluxe comes with a nicer bit of wood. The wood is different. You have slightly better grain on this, and it is a true oil finish. The finish on this, I'm not entirely sure what it is. It's not really oil, but it's not really lacquer. It's not really a true oil, it's just an unexotic finish. The wood underneath, actually, if you oil finished it, would probably be quite nice, but it's got this sort of satin lacquer that's not lacquer on it that doesn't do it much justice. However, it is less nice than this and less rich than this. Both checkering patterns are identical, both done by laser, both sort of feature this two-panel rounded look. It's nice, it's quite modern, and it provides a good bit of grip. There is no palm swell to either of these. In fact, they are very, very thin. The thing that you notice when you first pick up a Marocchi First is they are extremely light. This 28-inch model is, I think, £6.4, and this 30-inch model is £6, £6.5. Again, probably the wood on this is going to be a little bit denser than the wood on this. Moving on, we have a safety with Selector on top. And this is where you kind of get into the gun and the mechanics of the gun. The Marocchi is a good gun. You know, this one is 900 quid and this is 1100 quid, so it's £200 extra for the finish and the nicer engraving. But the actual action itself isn't alloy action. That's how they get rid of the weight. I think it's a 7075, a T6 aluminium alloy. It's not bad, but like with all aluminium alloy action guns, it's a compromise, isn't it? It's not the best action material. But as such, you know, there are certain things that feel less good. The number one thing is that even though they feel exactly the same to every other steel action gun, is there is just a lack of substance around alloy action guns. So when you actually push the safety catch off, it sounds hollow. It doesn't feel as good. However, engineering wise, the production quality is great. Like, everything about this gun is really, really well produced. Except that it obviously has the nuances of a standard alloy action gun, because that's just what it is. However, the Deluxe safety catch feels better. In fact, the finish on the Deluxe action is better. You have a sort of a much shinier nickel coating than the coating they put on the standard. And as such, I presume that is what lends itself to everything on this gun just feeling that little bit smoother. Just the surface to surface, metal to metal workings are nicer. How long that lasts? Well, all you have to do is look at every other alloy action gun on the market and draw your own conclusions. Prettiness. Both have a game scene with acanthus borders. However, the acanthus borders on the Deluxe are deeper, nicer, more contrasting. They've got a silver penny finish, so it's the black on silver effect, and you have gilded game burns on everything. You have a woodcock, a grey partridge, and a mallard on the offside. Again, the engraving patterns are the same, but one is gilded and one is shiny, the other one is satin with no gilding, and the engraving is less deep. I thought that might have just been a trick of the silver penny, but it is significantly less deep on this model here. Both of these safety catches are manual. I'm unsure whether they even do an automatic. So the fact that these are both game guns, you know, light stocks, light guns, parallel 6mm ribs, multi-chokes, so on and so forth. The fact they have manual safeties is a little bit of a quandary, but is not really the end of the world. So it's not something I'm going to get hung up on. The trigger is mechanical and it's actually quite crisp, and for a gun of its style, it operates really nice. It's fast, it's good. There's a little bit of graunch in there. When I say graunch, there's a lack of smoothness, but it's not horrible by any means. They are nice enough triggers. Again, based on the price point and where they sit in the market. Moving on, the forend specs are identical. It seems the Deluxe has a sharper schnabel and actually is just a little bit nicer finished. But you have that same rounded effect around the laser cut checkering, and it's a very nice, very pleasant pattern. For a gun that isn't very full in your right hand, the left hand is a very different story. The fact that you have a bottom locking bite on the bottom there leads to a deep action and a deep forend. So the forend on the front is extremely versatile, although will feel a little bit more Browning-esque than the rest of the gun, for a comparison that most people were used to. Whereas the grip feels, in all honesty, like a 20 ball. It's not unpleasant. In fact, it's reminiscent of sort of 1980s sporters where you had small grips and big forends. There's something quite pleasant about it. But yeah, I mean, there is just something quite pleasant about it. One cannot knock that. So there's a stark contrast on all these guns, that all of the ironwork apart from the actions is black. So it's a nice contrast to have that black on silver. You'll either like that or you won't. I also really like the black trigger. It's something that I think is underdone by a lot of gun companies. However, the trigger is what it is. It'd be lovely if it was a little bit more rounded and fit your finger a bit better. But again, at a gun at the price, it is exceptionally well finished. The obvious issues come when it comes to balance, that an alloy action gun with a lightweight stock is always going to end up balancing about 2 inches in front of the hinge pin, but you just shoot it accordingly. I don't think there's a possibility that you could put the weight in the back, but then what you're doing is you're bumping your alloy action gun up to 7.5 pounds, and you probably should have just bought a steel action gun at that point, being a little bit more picky about what you had. It is steel proofed, they are multi-choke, they're bored at 18.5, so they're quite tightly bored, and I've shot a few of them, they seem to pattern quite well as well. They're a nice gun to shoot. But I probably wouldn't consider buying one if you don't want an alloy actioned gun. The name first suggests that they are, well, either the best, which perhaps is a little bit not, because they're not, but at the money they're very good value, but they suggest it maybe as a first gun, and I would agree with that. A lightweight gun as a first gun does a shooter a lot of favours. It means they're not worrying about weight, they're not going to get tired, there's a lot of positives to that. Although obviously on the flip side, you will get a little bit more recoil. In terms of handling, the 30-inch is a little bit more of a beast than the 28. The 28 feels a lot better. The 30-inch takes a little bit more getting used to. They're nicely spec'd at 1.5 and 2.25. So it's parallel-ish, a little bit of drop, but if you want to get your head down, you can still see just a little bit of rip, which is actually quite pleasant. It's not too low. A first sporter, perhaps. A first game gun, perhaps. All in all, if you just want a lightweight gun, don't want to buy a Silver Pigeon lightweight, or don't want to buy a Yilditz or a Koffs, this sits really nicely in the market. It's a well-made alloy action gun. My personal preference really, I think, is to go for the Deluxe. For the extra couple of £100, it does look a lot better. It seems that finish on the action does it for me more than anything. The actual brushed finish, the coating, just makes this look like a better gun mixed with the oil finish. This gun will stand up against guns twice its price in the alloy action market, and that really is something. It's just going to set it apart from the cheaper alloy actions coming in from Turkey. This one, for under £1,000, I do like it, but aesthetically it just doesn't do a lot for me. Engraving alloy action guns is always a tricky thing because the alloy tears, unlike steel. It doesn't cut the same, so trying to get the same patterns on alloy as you do on steel is quite hard, which is why generally cheaper steel guns can have slightly nicer patterns or slightly more traditional looking patterns than alloy action guns. But I think they've done a great job on the Deluxe, and I really think it's a great gun. Go and check it out, see what you think, and let me know your answers. Take care, goodbye, and I'll see you next time.